The massive Federation ship dropped out of hyperspace with a gentle hum that vibrated through its metal halls. Captain Zethkara stood on the bridge watching the stars settle into normal patterns as her crew worked at their stations. She was a tall, blue-skinned Altarian with 4 arms and eyes that could see far into space without any help from machines. Her people had been exploring the galaxy for over 2,000 years, and she had seen many strange worlds in her long career. "Captain, we have reached the target system," said her navigation officer Crixtel while checking his instruments. "All systems show normal readings, and we are at safe distance from the star." Zethkara nodded and walked closer to the main viewing screen where a yellow star burned brightly in the center of a solar system. Around it orbited several planets of different sizes and colors. The third planet from the star caught her attention. Because it was blue and white with what looked like clouds swirling around it. "Begin standard planetary scans," she ordered while settling into her command chair. "Check all worlds for signs of life or useful resources. Follow Federation protocols for new system exploration." Science Officer Veltar moved his 6 fingers across his control panel and started the deep scanning process. He was a small gray creature with large black eyes and skin that could change color when he was excited or worried. Right now, his skin was its normal gray color, but that would soon change. The scanning beams reached out from their ship toward the planets and began collecting information about atmosphere composition, surface temperature, geological activity, and electromagnetic readings. For the first few planets, the results were normal. Rocky worlds with thin atmospheres or gas giants with poisonous clouds. Nothing that would interest the Federation or pose any danger to exploration teams. Then the scanners reached the third planet and everything changed. Veltara's skin turned bright orange, which meant he was very confused or frightened. He ran the scans 3 more times to make sure his equipment was working correctly. Each time the results were the same, and each time his orange color got brighter. "Captain," he said in a shaky voice while staring at his screens, "I think our scanners are broken. The readings from the third planet cannot be correct." Zethkara stood up and walked over to look at the data herself. Her 4 eyes widened as she read the numbers, and her blue skin became pale. The planet's atmosphere was 21% oxygen, which was enough to cause explosive fires if anyone brought any heat source near it. The surface showed constant electrical storms with enough power to destroy small cities. Massive plates of rock were moving and crashing into each other, creating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. "Run full diagnostics on all scanning equipment," she ordered while trying to stay calm. "These readings suggest a Class 12 Deathworld at minimum." While Veltar worked on the diagnostics, other crew members gathered around to see what was causing the excitement. Communications Officer Nixara was a tall, thin creature with purple skin and no hair anywhere on her smooth head. She looked at the readings and made a whistling sound that meant surprise in her language. "Captain, if these readings are accurate, then this world is beyond our classification system," she said while pointing at the data. "Look at the radiation levels from their star. Any Federation citizen would die from exposure in less than 1 hour, even with protective clothing." The diagnostics came back showing all equipment was working perfectly. The readings were real and accurate. Captain Zethkara felt cold fear creeping up her spine as she realized what they had found. This was not just a dangerous world, but something that should not be able to support any kind of life at all. "Captain," called out Tactical Officer Brintel from his station, "long-range sensors are detecting artificial electromagnetic signals coming from the planet's surface. The patterns suggest advanced technology and possibly intelligent life." The bridge went completely silent except for the quiet humming of the ship's engines. Everyone stared at the captain waiting for orders, but she was too shocked to speak immediately. An intelligent species living on a world that could kill most Federation citizens. Just by breathing its air was impossible according to every scientific theory they knew back on Earth. Jake Morrison sat in front of a bank of computers at the Arecibo tracking station drinking his 4th cup of coffee that day. He was a young man with brown hair and tired eyes who spent most of his time listening to radio signals from space, hoping to find something interesting. Most days brought only natural radiation from stars and planets, but today was different. "Hey, Lisa, come look at this," he called to his supervisor, Dr. Lisa Grant, who was working at another station nearby. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and glasses who had been studying space signals for over 20 years. "What did you find?" "Jake," she asked while walking over to see his screens, "please tell me it is not another false alarm like last week." Jake pointed at the wave patterns dancing across his monitor and shook his head. "These signals are definitely artificial. The patterns repeat every few minutes and they are coming from way outside our solar system. This is not natural radiation or interference from our own satellites." Lisa looked at the data and felt her heart start beating faster. After decades of searching for signs of intelligent life in space, they might have finally found something real. She grabbed her phone and started calling other scientists and government officials who needed to know about this discovery immediately. Neither the humans nor the aliens realized that their two worlds were about to collide in ways that would change everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. Dr. Quinel floated in his environmental suit inside the Federation research vessel while staring at the biological data streaming across his screens. As the galaxy's leading expert on dangerous life forms, he had studied creatures from acid worlds and ice planets, but nothing had prepared him for what lived on the third planet of this system. His tentacles moved nervously inside his suit as he tried to understand how such beings could exist. The creatures called themselves humans, and their biology made no sense according to everything science had taught him. Their blood carried oxygen levels that would burn through the respiratory systems of most Federation species in minutes. They consumed a substance called caffeine in doses that should cause immediate cardiac failure. Even worse, they seemed to enjoy drinking ethyl alcohol, which was used by his people as industrial solvent and disinfectant. Assistant researcher Kyle Wynn come examine these dietary records. He called to his colleague who was floating nearby taking notes. "The humans regularly consume plant compounds that our databases classify as deadly neurotoxins." Kyle Wynn swam over through the zero-gravity workspace and looked at the data with his large compound eyes. His insect-like features showed confusion as he read about human consumption of capsaicin from plants called peppers. This chemical was used by Federation security forces as a weapon to disable dangerous criminals. "Professor, perhaps our translation systems are malfunctioning," suggested Kyle Wynn while checking his own equipment. No intelligent species would deliberately consume pain-inducing toxins for pleasure. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Karen White was descending toward the ocean floor in her research submersible with her partner Alex Turner sitting beside her at the controls. They were marine biologists studying life around deep-sea thermal vents where water temperatures reached levels that could cook most surface creatures instantly. Neither of them realized that their routine scientific expedition was being watched by terrified alien observers millions of kilometers away. "Take us down to 3,000 meters, Alex," said Karen while checking her instruments and adjusting her diving equipment. "The thermal vent system should be most active at that depth today." Alex nodded and worked the controls to guide their small submarine deeper into the crushing darkness of the ocean depths. The pressure outside their vessel was enough to flatten most land vehicles instantly, but their equipment was designed to handle such extreme conditions routinely. To them, this was normal scientific work, but to the Federation observers it looked like deliberate exploration of a hellish environment. Through their long-range scanners, the aliens watched as these humans descended into conditions that matched the surface of the most dangerous worlds in Federation space. The pressure levels would crush any Federation citizen even inside their strongest protective suits. The temperature variations near the thermal vents matched those found on volcanic deathworlds that were marked as completely uninhabitable. "Look at these tube worms, Karen," said Alex while pointing out the viewing port at creatures living directly around the superheated water vents. "They are thriving in conditions that would kill almost any other life form we know about." Dr. Quinel recorded every word of their conversation through intercepted radio transmissions and felt his fear growing stronger. Not only were humans surviving in impossible conditions, but they were studying other creatures that also thrived in these deadly environments. Their entire planet seemed to be populated by impossible life forms that treated deadly conditions as normal habitat. Back on the Federation, research vessel the xenobiology team continued gathering data about human recreational activities that defied all logical understanding. They watched videos of humans deliberately jumping from great heights with only thin fabric to slow their fall. Others climbed vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet with no safety equipment to catch them if they lost their grip. Researcher Vix Ara examined these recordings of human leisure activities, called Dr. Quintal while displaying video footage on the main screen. They appear to seek out dangerous situations deliberately for emotional stimulation. Vixara was a small purple creature with 6 eyes who specialized in studying predator behavior patterns. She watched the videos of humans surfing on massive waves and racing vehicles at high speeds, while her skin changed to deep red, indicating extreme alarm. Professor, these behavior patterns match those of apex predators from the most violent ecosystems. In our databases, she reported while her voice trembled with fear, no prey species engages in recreational activities that increase mortality risk unless they have no natural predators to fear. The implications of this observation sent waves of panic through the research team. If humans were the dominant predators on their Deathworld, then their casual attitude toward danger meant they might view other species as potential prey, rather than equals worthy of diplomatic contact. Dr. Quintal opened communication channels with the Federation Council to report his preliminary findings about human biology and behavior. Council member Thrixon received the transmission while attending an emergency session, called to discuss the discovery of intelligent life on the impossible world. Honored Council members, the biological data confirms our worst fears about these creatures, reported Dr. Quintal through the quantum communication system. They have evolved in conditions so extreme that normal environmental hazards do not register as threats to their survival instincts. Thrixon was an ancient being whose people had been part of the Federation for over 5,000 years. His crystalline body could survive in most known environments, but even he felt cold fear when reading the reports about human capabilities. These creatures could survive exposure to their star's radiation levels that would kill him in minutes, despite his natural resistance to energy damage. Dr. Quintal, continue your observations but maintain maximum safe distance, ordered Thrixon while consulting with other council members about containment protocols. Under no circumstances should you attempt direct contact until we understand whether these beings pose a threat to galactic civilization. Back on Earth, Karen and Alex completed their research dive and returned to the surface where they uploaded their findings to the International Marine Biology Database. Their routine documentation of life in extreme environments continued to provide the Federation with evidence that Earth harbored impossibly resilient creatures in every ecological niche. The aliens watching from space realized they had discovered a world where evolution had produced beings capable of surviving conditions that challenged their most advanced technology. Every aspect of human existence suggested a species so thoroughly adapted to danger that they might not understand the concept of safety as other civilizations knew it. As night fell on Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant continued coordinating with government officials and scientists around the world to analyze the alien signals Jake had detected. Neither side yet understood that first contact between their species would require solving problems that no diplomatic protocol had ever anticipated. Ambassador Nixara floated in her private quarters aboard the Federation research vessel while composing the most important message of her career. As a junior diplomatic officer, she was not supposed to initiate first contact protocols without approval from the High Council, but the discovery of intelligent life on the Deathworld had created an unprecedented situation that demanded immediate action. Her purple skin showed patterns of deep concentration as she carefully chose each word for the transmission that would change galactic history. She had studied the human language, databases that her ship's computers had compiled from intercepted radio and television signals. The translation algorithms were still primitive, but they could convey basic diplomatic concepts well enough for initial contact. Greetings to the intelligent beings of the third planet. She spoke into her communication device while recording the message for transmission. We are representatives of the Galactic Federation, and we come in peace-seeking, friendship, and understanding between our peoples. On Earth, the message reached the Arecibo station where Jake Morrison was monitoring the signals that had started this entire situation. His equipment translated the alien language into English, using newly developed computer programs that had been working around the clock to decode the strange transmissions. "Dr. Grant, you need to hear this immediately," called Jake while his hands shook from excitement and fear. "The aliens are trying to talk to us directly, and they say they represent something called the Galactic Federation." Lisa Grant rushed over to listen to the translated message and felt her world shift as she realized that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. She immediately contacted Secretary General Elena Rodriguez at the United Nations headquarters in New York, where an emergency session was already in progress to deal with the alien contact situation. Elena Rodriguez was an experienced diplomat who had handled international crises for over 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for negotiating with beings from another world. She assembled a team of the best linguists, scientists, and negotiators available to craft humanity's response to the alien message. "We must be very careful about how we reply," said Elena while addressing her emergency response team in the secure conference room. "This first exchange will set the tone for all future relations between our species and theirs." The human response was carefully written and reviewed by dozens of experts before being transmitted back toward the Federation ship. The message expressed gratitude for peaceful contact and invited further communication to establish diplomatic relations between their civilizations. Ambassador Nick Zara received the human reply and felt relief that the Deathworld creatures seemed interested in peaceful contact rather than viewing the Federation as a threat to be eliminated. However, her relief quickly turned to concern when she began reading the translated content more carefully. The humans had suggested meeting face-to-face to establish proper diplomatic protocols and had offered to host the first summit on their homeworld. To Nick Zara, this suggestion revealed that the humans either did not understand the deadly nature of their environment or they were testing whether Federation representatives were brave enough to enter their domain. Communications officer prepare a response explaining that meeting on their world would not be possible due to environmental safety concerns. Ordered Captain Zethkara after reviewing the human message. Suggests that we meet on a neutral world with conditions suitable for both species? When this message reached Earth, the human diplomatic team interpreted it as an insult and evidence that the aliens considered humanity inferior or unworthy of hosting important meetings. Negotiator Paul Stevens was particularly offended by the suggestion that Earth was somehow unsafe for civilized beings. "They are treating us like we live in some kind of wasteland," complained Paul while reviewing the alien response with his colleagues. "Our planet has supported life for billions of years and built an advanced civilization. How dangerous could it possibly be to them?" Dr. Ashley Kim, who served as Earth's lead xenobiologist, tried to explain that the aliens might have evolved in very different conditions that made Earth's environment genuinely hazardous to their physiology. Her scientific perspective was overshadowed by the political implications of appearing weak or primitive to an advanced galactic civilization. The misunderstanding deepened when Ambassador Nick Zara transmitted detailed medical data explaining why Federation citizens could not safely visit Earth even with protective equipment. The information included warnings about human saliva, containing bacterial concentrations that could cause plague-level outbreaks on most civilized worlds. "This is ridiculous," said Paul Stevens after reading the translation of the medical warnings. "They are claiming that our saliva is some kind of biological weapon. How are we supposed to establish trust with beings who think we are walking disease factories?" The aliens also expressed concern about human blood oxygen levels that would be toxic to 89% of known Federation species if exposure occurred through accidental contact. To humans, this seemed like an arbitrary and insulting restriction. Since oxygen was essential for most Earth life forms, Dr. Ashley Kim tried to mediate by explaining that humans considered their world completely normal and safe. But her efforts only made the situation worse. When she mentioned that humans routinely survive childhood diseases, extreme weather events, and natural disasters, the Federation representatives became even more convinced that Earth's inhabitants were impossibly resilient beings adapted to survive in conditions that would kill normal life forms. Perhaps we could meet in space using our respective spacecraft, suggested Elena Rodriguez during the next exchange of messages. Both sides could remain in familiar environmental conditions while establishing communication protocols. This proposal seemed reasonable to the human negotiators, but Ambassador Nixara realized it revealed another fundamental problem with human Federation relations. The Deathworld beings were casually proposing to travel through the vacuum of space as if it were a normal diplomatic venue rather than one of the most dangerous environments in the universe. Captain Zethkara consulted with Federation High Command about how to proceed with species that treated deadly conditions as routine diplomatic meeting places. The response from the Council was immediate and clear: maintain maximum safe distance and avoid any situation that might expose Federation personnel to Deathworld contamination. Ambassador Nixara, you are ordered to terminate direct communication immediately, transmitted Council member Thrixan through secure quantum channels. The Deathworld beings have demonstrated behavior patterns consistent with apex predator species that do not recognize standard safety protocols. Meanwhile, on Earth, frustration was growing among the human diplomatic team as the aliens continued to avoid face-to-face meetings and refused to explain their safety concerns in terms that made sense to human understanding. The breakdown in communication was creating suspicion on both sides about the true intentions behind first contact. Dr. Lisa Grant continued monitoring the alien signals and noticed that their transmission patterns had changed from open diplomatic frequencies to encrypted military-grade communications. The shift suggested that something had gone wrong with the negotiation process and that the Federation might be considering humanity a potential threat rather than a candidate for peaceful contact. As both sides retreated into defensive positions, the dream of peaceful first contact between species began turning into a nightmare of mutual fear and misunderstanding that would have consequences neither civilization was prepared to handle. Scholar Primtel descended deep into the vast archives beneath the Federation capital world, where millions of years of galactic history were stored in crystalline databanks that stretched beyond the horizon. As the Federation's most respected xenohistorian, he had been tasked with researching how intelligent life could possibly have evolved on the impossibly hostile world that humans called Earth. His 8 legs carried him efficiently through the corridors of ancient knowledge, while his compound eyes scanned through databases containing information about every known world in the galaxy. He was searching for any precedent that might explain how beings could thrive in conditions that violated every principle of evolutionary biology that Federation science had established over thousands of years. The planet classification system used by the Federation ranked worlds from Class 1, which were paradise worlds with perfect conditions for most species, to Class 12, which were barely habitable death worlds that required extensive protective equipment for even brief visits. Earth's readings exceeded every measurement that defined a Class 12 world by such wide margins that Primtel realized they needed to create an entirely new classification level. Computer display all records of worlds with atmospheric oxygen levels above 15%. He commanded while settling into his research station. The results showed only 17 worlds in Federation space that had such dangerous atmospheric compositions, and all of them were marked as uninhabitable due to fire and explosion risks. Earth's atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, which meant that any heat source, including simple electronic devices, could trigger massive fires or explosions. The fact that humans used open flames for cooking food and entertainment showed either incredible bravery or complete ignorance of basic safety principles. The geological data was even more disturbing to Federation scientists who had evolved on stable worlds where major seismic events occurred perhaps once every few thousand years. Earth's surface showed evidence of constant tectonic activity with massive plates of rock grinding against each other and creating mountains, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions on a regular basis. Computers show historical records of intelligent species that developed on geologically active worlds, requested Primtel while reviewing the seismic data from Earth. The search returned 0 results because no known civilization had ever evolved on a world where the ground itself was constantly shifting and reshaping the landscape. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Ben Parker was working late in his environmental science laboratory at Stanford University trying to understand why the aliens seemed so frightened of his planet. He had been part of the scientific team analyzing the Federation communications, and their safety concerns seemed completely irrational to his human perspective. The atmospheric composition data they sent us suggests they evolved in environments with very low oxygen levels, he explained to his research partner Professor Rita Hayes while reviewing the alien biological requirements. Their concerns about fire hazards might be legitimate if they never developed the ability to safely use combustion for energy. Rita nodded while studying the Federation data on acceptable radiation levels and temperature ranges for their species. The numbers showed that most alien life forms required much more protection from their star's energy than humans needed, despite Earth's sun being classified as a relatively mild yellow dwarf star. Ben, look at these temperature tolerance ranges, she said while pointing to her computer screen. Federation species seem to require environmental suits to survive in conditions that humans would consider mild spring weather. Dr. Greg Foster, who specialized in studying extreme environments, joined their discussion after reviewing the biological diversity data that Earth had transmitted to the Federation as part of the cultural exchange attempts. The alien response to Earth's biodiversity had been complete silence, followed by what appeared to be emergency communications between their ships. I think we accidentally terrified them when we sent the biological survey data, said Greg while reviewing the transmission logs. Earth contains more genetic diversity in a single rainforest than the Federation has cataloged in entire star systems. The problem was that Earth's biodiversity included creatures that would be classified as dangerous megafauna by Federation standards. Sharks had remained essentially unchanged as perfect predators for over 400 million years because Earth's environment was so hostile that evolution had created ideal killing machines and then stopped trying to improve them. Scholar Primtel found records showing that most Federation worlds had eliminated their dangerous predators through natural evolution or deliberate intervention millions of years ago. The idea that humans shared their world with creatures like bears, big cats, venomous snakes, and crocodiles suggested either that humans were so formidable that such predators posed no threat, or that Earth's environment was so dangerous that multiple apex predator species could coexist. Computer analyzed human domestication records for evidence of predator control methods, commanded Primtel while trying to understand how humans had achieved dominance over their hostile world. The results showed that humans had somehow convinced wolves to become their companions and work partners. This discovery sent shockwaves through Federation xenobiology departments because wolves were classified by galactic standards as dangerous pack-hunting predators that most species would consider suitable only for elimination or extreme containment. The fact that humans had turned them into household pets and working animals suggested capabilities that challenged every assumption about predator-prey relationships. Even worse for galactic peace of mind was the discovery that humans kept many other potentially dangerous creatures as pets, including various reptiles, large birds, and even some venomous species that they maintained in their homes for entertainment purposes. This behavior was completely incomprehensible to Federation citizens who had spent millions of years eliminating such risks from their civilizations. Dr. Ashley Kim received a new transmission from the Federation containing detailed questions about Earth's weather systems and their impact on human civilization. The aliens seemed particularly concerned about something humans called hurricanes, tornadoes and blizzards that apparently occurred on a regular basis and disrupted normal activities. They want to know how we survive seasonal storms that have Enough energy to power their space stations, said Ashley while translating the latest Federation inquiry. I think they believe our weather systems are some kind of planetary defense mechanism rather than natural phenomena. The Federation weather analysis showed that Earth's atmospheric systems regularly produce storms with energy outputs that exceeded the total power generation of some smaller Federation colonies. The fact that humans had built permanent settlements in areas where such storms occurred frequently suggested either incredible engineering capabilities or a casual attitude toward destruction that bordered on insanity. Scholar Primtel completed his historical research and submitted a formal recommendation to the Federation Council that Earth be classified as the galaxy's first Class 13 Deathworld, with a notation that no existing safety protocols were adequate for contact with its inhabitants. His report concluded that humans represented either the most dangerous predator species ever discovered or the most impossibly resilient beings in galactic history. The evidence suggests that these creatures have evolved in conditions so extreme that they do not recognize normal environmental hazards as threats, wrote Primtel in his final report. Their casual attitude toward radiation, atmospheric toxicity, geological instability, and biological diversity indicates adaptation to a world that exceeds our understanding of habitable conditions. The Federation Council received this report, while Earth scientists continued trying to understand why their normal world seemed so frightening to an advanced galactic civilization that claimed to represent thousands of different species from across the galaxy. President Martha Walsh sat in the Oval Office surrounded by her most trusted advisors as they debated how humanity should respond to the growing realization that the galaxy considered Earth a dangerous hellworld inhabited by impossible creatures. The morning briefing had included updates from scientists around the world who were trying to understand why their peaceful attempts at diplomatic contact had triggered what appeared to be a galactic quarantine protocol. Madam President, the Federation has stopped responding to our communications entirely, reported Secretary of State William Carter while reviewing the latest intelligence reports. Our monitoring stations are detecting increased military style transmissions between their ships and what appears to be their homeworlds. Defense Secretary Roy Clark leaned forward in his chair and tapped his fingers nervously on the conference table, while studying satellite images of the alien vessels that remained positioned at the edge of the solar system. Their formation had changed from scientific observation pattern to what military analysts recognized as defensive positioning. We need to consider the possibility that they view us as a threat rather than potential allies, said Roy, while highlighting the tactical implications on his tablet computer. Their behavior suggests they are preparing for conflict rather than continued diplomatic engagement. President Walsh felt the weight of representing humanity's interests in a situation that no previous leader had ever faced. The discovery that Earth was apparently unique in the galaxy for its hostile conditions meant that humans might have abilities and perspectives that could either benefit galactic civilization or be seen as dangerous to existing power structures. What are our options if the Federation decides that humanity poses a threat to galactic security? Asked Martha while looking around the room at her advisors. Can we defend ourselves against technology that is clearly centuries ahead of our current capabilities? Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Admiral Chris Tucker was meeting with military planners to assess Earth's defensive capabilities against potential alien intervention. The Federation ships had demonstrated faster than light travel and energy weapons that could probably destroy human civilization with minimal effort if they chose to take aggressive action. Our best intelligence suggests that the aliens are more afraid of us than we should be of them, reported General Kate Morrison while presenting analysis of intercepted Federation communications. Their transmissions showed genuine fear about human biological and psychological capabilities rather than confidence in their technological superiority. Dr. Sam Johnson, who served as the government's lead advisor on alien psychology, had been studying Federation behavioral patterns and communication styles to understand their motivations and decision-making processes. His research revealed disturbing implications about how galactic civilization viewed Earth and its inhabitants. The Federation appears to operate on consensus-based decision-making with strong emphasis on safety and risk avoidance, explained Sam while presenting his findings to the military leadership. Human willingness to accept risk and adapt to dangerous conditions is completely outside their cultural understanding. This psychological profile suggested that humans might have developed mental and emotional capabilities that were unknown to Federation species who had evolved in safe, stable environments. Human concepts like courage, adventure-seeking, and competitive risk-taking were apparently so alien to galactic civilization that they were being interpreted as evidence of predatory or unstable nature. General Kate Morrison realized that Earth's reputation as a death world might actually provide strategic advantages if handled correctly. Species that were afraid of human environmental conditions might also be intimidated by human military capabilities and psychological resilience, developed through surviving constant natural threats. We should consider using their fear as a diplomatic tool rather than trying to convince them we are harmless, suggested Kate while outlining a more aggressive approach to Federation relations. If they already believe we are dangerous, then demonstrating our capabilities might earn more respect than showing weakness. At the same time, Dr. Julie Adams, who led the International Scientific Cooperation Committee, was developing plans to prove that humans could adapt to Federation environmental requirements and establish common ground for future negotiations. Her approach focused on demonstrating human flexibility rather than emphasizing their resistance to harsh conditions. We should show them that we can survive in their preferred environments rather than insisting they visit ours, argued Julie during a video conference with scientists from around the world. Building environmental suits that allow humans to function safely in low oxygen, low radiation, geologically stable conditions might ease their concerns about biological contamination. This proposal created heated debate among Earth's leadership about whether humanity should try to appear less threatening or embrace their apparent reputation as survivors of impossible conditions. The decision would determine whether first contact led to integration with galactic civilization or isolation as a quarantined species. Dr. Victor Chun, who had been appointed as Earth's provisional ambassador to the Federation, worked with linguists and communication specialists to craft messages that might bridge the cultural gap between human and alien perspectives. His efforts were complicated by translation difficulties and fundamental differences in how each species understood concepts like safety, risk, and normal living conditions. The Federation languages contained dozens of words for different types of safety protocols, but no equivalent terms for what humans call adventure or thrill-seeking, reported Victor while struggling to explain human recreational activities to alien observers. They literally cannot understand why anyone would deliberately seek out dangerous experiences for emotional satisfaction. The communication barrier went deeper than simple language differences because Federation cultures had apparently eliminated most forms of physical risk from their daily lives over millions of years of technological development. Human activities like extreme sports, competitive contests, and exploration of dangerous environments were being interpreted as evidence of psychological instability or predatory behavior patterns. President Walsh called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council to coordinate a global response to the Federation's apparent decision to quarantine Earth. Representatives from every major nation gathered in New York to debate whether humanity should accept isolation or take more aggressive action to force recognition as equals in galactic civilization. We cannot allow ourselves to be treated as dangerous animals in a cosmic zoo, declared the Chinese representative while addressing the assembly. Humanity has the right to participate in galactic affairs regardless of where we evolved or what conditions we adapted to survive. The Russian ambassador agreed and suggested that Earth should demonstrate its technological capabilities by launching deep space missions that would show human determination to expand beyond their home system. With or without Federation approval, this proposal received support from nations that viewed the alien quarantine as an unacceptable restriction on human development. However, other delegates argued that aggressive actions might validate Federation fears about human nature and lead to active intervention rather than passive containment. The debate revealed fundamental disagreements about whether humanity should try to prove their peaceful intentions or assert their independence through strength. As Earth's government struggled to find consensus, the Federation continued their distant observation while implementing what appeared to be permanent monitoring stations designed to track human activities and prevent unauthorized expansion beyond the solar system boundaries. Ambassador Elena Torres floated inside her specially designed environmental suit while approaching the Federation diplomatic station that had been constructed in the empty space between Earth and Mars. The meeting location had been chosen as a compromise after months of careful negotiation about where representatives from both species could gather safely without risking contamination or environmental hazards. Across the docking bay, Federation Supreme Counselor Veltar waited inside his own protective equipment while reviewing the complex protocols that had been developed for this unprecedented summit between a Class 13 Deathworld species and the galactic community. His crystalline body glowed with nervous energy as he prepared to negotiate with beings whose very existence challenged everything Federation science understood about life in the universe. Ambassador Torres, this is Counselor Veltar speaking through our translation systems, came the alien voice through her suit communication device. I hope we can find common ground despite the vast differences between our species and environments. Elena felt the weight of representing all humanity in discussions that would determine whether Earth remained quarantined or gained limited acceptance into galactic civilization. Behind her floated a team of Earth's best diplomats, scientists, and cultural specialists who had spent months preparing for this moment. Counselor Veltar, we appreciate the Federation's willingness to meet with us despite your concerns about human biology and environmental requirements, replied Elena while carefully following the diplomatic scripts that had been developed through extensive cultural analysis. We hope to establish peaceful relations that benefit both our peoples. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history as both sides struggled to find solutions for problems that no diplomatic protocol had ever anticipated. The fundamental issue was that humans needed conditions that would kill most Federation species while Federation environments would slowly poison human physiology even with protective equipment. Dr. Victor Tian, who served as Earth's scientific liaison, worked closely with Federation xenobiologist Quinville to develop communication methods that acknowledged the biological realities without triggering panic responses from either side. Their partnership became a model for how impossible species might find ways to coexist, despite fundamental incompatibilities. The key is accepting that neither side can safely visit the other's natural environment, explained Victor during one of the technical working sessions. We need to establish protocols for interaction in neutral spaces where both species can function with appropriate protection. The final agreement that emerged from 6 months of careful negotiation created an unprecedented framework for managing relations between incompatible civilizations. Earth would be designated as a protected preserve with humans recognized as a unique species requiring special consideration due to their extreme environmental adaptations. In exchange for accepting limitations on interstellar expansion, Earth would receive access to Federation databases containing scientific and cultural information from thousands of worlds. The technology transfers would be carefully controlled to prevent humans from developing capabilities that might alarm other Federation members who were still adjusting to the existence of Deathworld survivors. President Martha Walsh signed the historic accords on behalf of humanity while knowing that the agreement represented both an achievement and a form of sophisticated imprisonment. Earth would remain connected to galactic civilization, but humans would need Federation approval before establishing colonies beyond their solar system. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history, declared Martha during the global broadcast announcing the successful conclusion of negotiations. We may be different from other galactic species, but we have earned recognition as equals deserving of respect and peaceful coexistence. The Federation Council ratified the agreements with the understanding that Humanity represented a unique challenge that required unprecedented flexibility in galactic law and diplomatic procedure. The precedent established by Earth would influence how future discoveries of extreme species would be handled by galactic civilization. Dr. Julie Adams established the Earth Federation scientific exchange program that allowed carefully controlled research cooperation between human and alien scientists. The program's first project involves studying how Earth's biodiversity might contribute to medical advances for Federation species who had evolved in much less challenging environments. Human adaptations to extreme conditions are providing insights into biological resilience that could help Federation species survive in previously uninhabitable environments, reported Julie during the program's first annual review. Our differences are becoming sources of mutual benefit rather than reasons for separation. Meanwhile, Federation educators work to prepare galactic society for eventual broader contact with humanity by developing new safety protocols and cultural awareness programs. The process revealed how much both sides needed to learn about coexisting with fundamentally different forms of life. Children on Earth grew up learning about the galaxy beyond their world while understanding that their planet's extreme nature made them unique among intelligent species. Educational programs emphasized humanity's responsibility to prove that Deathworld survivors could be peaceful members of galactic civilization rather than threats to be contained. Remember that we are the only known species that evolved in conditions this dangerous, taught elementary school teacher Mary Foster to her students during a lesson about Earth's place in the galaxy. That makes us special, but also means we have to work extra hard to show other species that we can be good neighbors. The monitoring stations that the Federation maintained at the edge of Earth's solar system became symbols of the uneasy balance between acceptance and containment that defined human-alien relations. Human space programs continued developing under Federation observation while alien scientists studied Earth's impossible biosphere from a safe distance. Trade relationships developed slowly as both sides learned what products and services could be safely exchanged between incompatible civilizations. Human entertainment and cultural exports became surprisingly popular among Federation species who were fascinated by stories of survival and adventure from a world that challenged their understanding of habitable conditions. Dr. Ashley Kim documented the gradual changes in how Federation species viewed humanity as direct observation replaced fearful speculation about Deathworld inhabitants. The process revealed that understanding could eventually overcome fear, but only through careful, patient effort from both sides. 5 years ago, they thought we were monsters, she wrote in her final report as Earth's xenobiology coordinator. Today, they recognize us as fellow intelligent beings who happen to have evolved in conditions they find terrifying. That recognition is the foundation for everything else we hope to achieve. The story concluded with humanity's acceptance of their unique position as the galaxy's most resilient species while working within the constraints of their fearsome reputation. Earth remained a world apart but no longer completely alone as both humans and aliens learned to navigate the complex relationship between survivors of impossible conditions and citizens of a safer, more predictable galaxy. Young Federation students began studying Earth as an example of how life could adapt to overcome any challenge, while human children learned that their strength came not from being feared but from proving that power could be used responsibly for the benefit of all intelligent life in the universe.